Guest Reham Khan, who joins us live from London for more on this story. Reham, first of all, overall picture from you. You've been tracking all the developments, I'm sure, from early this morning. When it comes to the voter turnout, we know that 51% people turned out in Punjab. We're still waiting for the exact numbers from other areas. Just looking at the pictures that came in today of people lining up well before the time for casting their vote, tell us what went through your mind as you were watching those images.
Thank you, Aisha. And I think it's been a very encouraging picture. Certainly what we were talking about yesterday, that there were obviously risks, and there would be a lot of risk of rioting and even bloodshed. And we started the morning off on a very bloody, very deadly note, and that wasn't the best sign or the best encouraging sign for other voters to come out. But I have to say that the voters did turn out despite the very hot conditions, very severe conditions in many parts of Pakistan. And it's actually improved. So overall, I have closer to a 53% voter turnout. Obviously, these are not confirmed figures, but it improved in the latter part of the day when there was welcome rain in parts of Lahore and Punjab, and that, of course, cooled things down. Perhaps even locally emotions as well, because the PML-N have had some success, and that might have been encouraging sign for voters. One of the biggest celebrations today is the fact that women have voted, and women have elderly women have been lining up for hours and voting, but also particularly the beautiful image that we saw from tribal areas, the first time in our history that North Waziristan and women in North Waziristan were part of the polling process, and was just a wonderful image to see. We saw first thing this morning an image come out from Momand, which is also the tribal area, or the previously known as tribal area, and now of course merged with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Heartwarming images, I think very powerful images, and they will go down in history. Particularly the first image is beautiful because you see this pale blue background, and then you see the contrast of the shuttlecock burqas, and it's emancipation, and it's baby steps, but it is something which really lifts the spirits. I think it was very encouraging to see the elderly. I must say that one of the other heartwarming pictures was from the area of Hakimullah Masood, and I saw a particularly nice image of elderly people, elderly men, lining up, queuing up to vote. And that's of course defying depression and all the things that us analysts sit on TV and say, the doom and gloom that we spread. So it's nice that people are defying that and are optimistic about it. It wasn't a brilliant turnout, not as much as 2013, and it's obviously understandable. We've never really had polls in such hot weather, so we were expecting a low turnout anyway. But with the political sort of environment where we thought that generally that there would be pre-poll rigging, that there would be long queues, and of course perhaps some violence, that must have played an important factor. I can also say that when the ECP did not allow an extra hour for polling to continue, what I'm getting from unofficial sources, well, reporters on grounds, they're saying that people who have been queuing up have been allowed to cast their vote if they'd been waiting in the line. So that was about 6:10, and they were allowed in. And that's an encouraging sign. Most places have also said that the process of voting was actually quite smooth. In the federal area, we had a very high turnout for from women polling stations. This is the constituency that you mentioned where Imran is leading at the minute.
Right.
And this is a very interesting constituency. It's the federal area, NA53, and the other candidate is the former Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi. And we've had a very healthy women turnout, but at the moment it seems it's favouring Imran there.
Okay, I want to ask you, in comparison to numbers from previous polls, you said that the numbers aren't exactly encouraging. Hot weather and of course violence were factors that affected perhaps people not showing up in big droves to cast their vote. But overall, looking at the picture from today as compared to previous polls, it still does draw an image of a country that is working towards democracy, a country that wants to continue with the trend of civilian governments passing on the reins to other civilian governments.
Absolutely, and that's what I said, that it is heartwarming. It's very encouraging. Again, one cannot really give the credit to the infrastructure or the institutions here because, and the media also. I think I must point out that the media hasn't painted a very conducive environment or, hasn't been very encouraging. It has been very biased. The propaganda machinery was working overtime, and the sort of comments that were coming out from younger people and particularly women, we were not very hopeful. Because it seemed like a very one-sided match, as you said on the broadcast yesterday, that it seems like a fixed match. So I think that the results so far are very encouraging because it is defiance for the sake of democracy, and that can only be a good thing. And of course, these are baby steps towards democracy, but even if we have some semblance of fairness, which is very difficult in these times. I also want to comment on what Hina Rabbani Kar just said to you a few minutes ago, that I think we're looking at a hung parliament, at a very divided parliament, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. Of course, you're absolutely spot on that Bilawal Bhutto has a crucial position to play, a role to play as the kingmaker, because we see that they have retained much of their seats. I also wanted to point out that in Sindh, the voter turnout was far more depressing compared to in Punjab, and I don't know why that was, but we saw fewer numbers come out to vote.
Okay, I'm just glad that I got to start off this bulletin speaking with two women. It sort of, draws attention to the fact that there are a lot of female voices speaking up in Pakistan about very important issues. In fact, even social media is erupting with commentary from women who are watching these elections very closely in Pakistan. In fact, before we touch upon the role of women, Reham, if you will, I just want to take our viewers through that important bit of information that came in early this morning, which sort of got everyone rather upset. The fact of the matter is that this election was marred by violence of the most heinous kind. 31 people were killed and 40 others injured in a blast in the city of Quetta. 3 policemen and 2 children were among those who were killed. The blast took place near the eastern bypass in Quetta. A hand grenade was also found from the place where the blast took place. Now, the Pakistan People's Party's prime ministerial candidate Bilawal Bhutto condemned that attack. Now, the PTI chief Imran Khan generated controversy for not immediately condemning it, but he soon took to Twitter to express his condolences, saying, quote, "Condemnable terrorist attack in Quetta by enemies of Pakistan seeking to disrupt our democratic process. Saddened by the loss of innocent lives, Pakistanis must defeat the terrorist design by coming out in strength to cast their vote." End quote. All right, let's go back to Reham on that note. Reham, you have, of course, spoken with us about the fact that all these political parties, none of them ended up, making their way across to Balochistan. It remains sort of off the radar. And Balochistan has, of course, seen the worst kind of violence in these elections as well. Why do you think it's been repeatedly targeted with this sort of heinous violence against innocents?
Well, Aisha, simply the sad fact is it's easy. It's easy to target vulnerable people. It's easy to target Balochistan. It's unacceptable violence. And as we said on the broadcast yesterday as well, and I said earlier this morning that you'll remember that I mentioned Quetta and Balochistan. I'm very passionate about this region, and I covered it on the ground during the 2013 elections. And I said to you on the program yesterday that within minutes of me driving across from this very eastern bypass that has had the blast today, I escaped rockets last elections, and the accommodation that I was staying had a rocket launched at it at the same window where I would hang out of the window to get better phone signals. And despite mobile phone jammers, this is the sort of violence that people live with in Quetta and Balochistan on a daily basis. In 2018, the situation obviously hasn't improved very much. What I said earlier this morning also was what makes my blood boil is the fact that we saw long queues in the heat, in the severe conditions of Balochistan, particularly in Bhutto area. We saw this scores of men lining up despite these violent attacks towards them. So, I mean, their perseverance, of course, I salute their courage, but, you know, it is exasperating to see that they do not demand more. They deserve more. This is the province that has the least vote count. So really none of the parties are actually interested in Balochistan, because the vote count there, the share that they get from Balochistan, is not enough to get anyone into power in the federation, or even you know, it's not a position or a province that interests any of the parties. And of course the politicians all play safe. They want their protocol and they want to go to safe places where they can give this rhetoric. So it's far more comfortable to stand in a polling station and violate the ECP's regulations, but it's not safe or brave enough to, you know, nobody's willing to go and give this kind of statement in Quetta. I would challenge and dare them to go and stand on Saryab Road and give this kind of give a 30-second speech similar to what they've done in the confines and the comfort of their home and the security protocol that they're afforded. And of course they should take the cameras with them and see and spend some time on Saryab Road, spend some time in Quetta, spend some time in NA 260. And so this is just outrageous, because you expect Balochistan to give sacrifice, you expect them to give their lives, countless lives, and we've just seen a couple of weeks ago. So of course it's when it comes to sacrifice, you want Balochistan, you want Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but when it comes to the vote count and their share, whether it's in the votes or whether it is to propel you into power, or even in the job share market, there is no sound, no voice from these huge, big, mega political players. And that is very, very disturbing to me. It should be disturbing to the people of Balochistan,
sure,
and to the people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Right, which explains, I suppose, the concentration on Punjab by these major political parties. I know what you were alluding to, and we are going to get to that, you know, a bit of video footage of Imran Khan casting his vote in front of the television cameras. We'll get to that in just a bit. But since you've brought it up, let's actually start talking about the individuals who are involved here. We've called him the kingmaker, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. He's the man hoping to regain the lost charm of his party, a man who wants to further his mother's legacy and may end up having the last laugh in this election. Now, most surveys predict a neck fight between Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. So where does that leave Bilawal Bhutto Zardari? He's a political novice fighting to keep his family name alive, the chairman of a party that is restricted to Sindh, that was once considered a PPP stronghold. But Bhutto cannot be ignored. From being the biggest national party in the country to being an underdog, Pakistan People's Party has come a long way. And Bilawal could very well play the kingmaker if the polls throw up a hung assembly. Now, the latest survey suggests that there's no clear winner. Three possible scenarios arise. The first, the PTI leads the coalition with support from nationalist parties along with independents. That does not give much hope for Bilawal, other than playing the role of an effective opposition. The second scenario sees Imran joining hands with the Pakistan People's Party to lead the coalition with support from provincial and ethnic parties and independents. This way, Bilawal Bhutto could dictate the terms to Imran Khan, who's now craving power for quite some time. And number three, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, the PML-N and the PPP could possibly come together to form government. As unlikely as that may sound right now, the two parties could forge a bond under a common theme of persecution. The army and Imran Khan out of the civilian government. Riyam, I think that's the interesting part of South Asian politics, that when it comes to joining hands, it really is, you know, the situation that dictates who your friends and enemies are. You heard those three possible, you know, scenarios that we're looking at. Which one of them seems most, let's say, credible to you or possible, given the idea that the PML-N and the PPP are in fact neck and neck in this election?
Now, I think I need a disclaimer before I make this comment, because as you very rightly pointed out, anything can happen in South Asian politics, and friends and enemies can change overnight. But so there's the disclaimer. But I think that what would be a comfortable affiliation or a comfortable coalition would actually be, and it's looking very likely at the moment. And of course, these are unofficial results. These are exit polls. We've not been allowed to broadcast in Pakistan in a new move from the ECP to give sort of official results as the polling stations give individual results out. But what is looking like at the moment is about 40 odd seats for Pakistan People's Party, which of course makes them crucial as the kingmakers. So wherever the Pakistan People's Party goes first, and I think they're more likely to go with the PML-N. The PML-N is looking comfortable at around 85 seats. That's a modest estimate. It could be higher than that, and that's looking likely because some of the results have been very predictable. For example, Shehbaz Sharif's seat in Karachi, where he's leading against PTI's Faisal Wada, is very predictable. Also, the MQM's secure seats, where Ali Raza Abdi is leading comfortably ahead of Imran. That was expected. Khwaja Asif is leading and has actually, I think, defeated Imran in Imran's Lahore seat, his home seat, and that, of course, is a major upset. This was one of the first results that was released. Of course, it isn't confirmed, but it's a very I think it's safe to say that will be the case. So it's looking very likely that it will be a comfortable alliance, and I base that not only on past performances and past track record of affiliations between the PTI, between the Pakistan People's Party and PML-N. Of course, we haven't forgotten the Charter of Democracy. But also I say this because of the extreme positions taken by all three of them just prior to the elections, particularly Bilawal Bhutto, who has been very vocal and has been vocal towards the end of the campaign. So when we thought about it a few months ago, we did think that a PPP coalition was likely. This was something that was fed, and I repeat the word fed, to our mouthpieces on national media, and they were professing that there would be a PTI PPP coalition. It doesn't seem likely, and I think it would be very embarrassing for the PPP to now backtrack. I think a little bit of a hint has been given by Hina Rabbani Kar also, and she's of course Pakistan People's Party, and I think is perhaps very close to the Pakistan People's Party and what's happening in the inner circle. And she's given a hint also that it's going to be a far more comfortable alliance with someone who is not constantly abusing them, and I think Imran has now developed an image where sadly he is not seen as a reliable partner. He's not seen as someone who is going to back down on any offer. And the reason I say that is based on the fact that Bilawal Bhutto, you say, is young and a political novice, but I don't really think that he's behaved like a political novice. I think he's saying all the right things which are politically correct, but he's also got a little bit of Benazir.
All right, we'll try and reconnect with Reham in just a second. We seem to have lost that connection with our guest in London, but she draws an important point there about the importance of the man on your screens right now. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, just 29 years old. Remember, it's been exactly 10 years, will be exactly 10 years since his mother, Benazir Bhutto, was killed. She was assassinated in Pakistan when she returned to contest the elections back in 2008. Then Bilawal Bhutto was just 19 years old. His mother, of course, said that she wanted him along with his father, Asif Ali Zardari, to lead the PPP. Remember, according to Pakistan rules in, Pakistan of course doesn't allow anyone below the age of 25 to become a prime minister. So Bilawal, too young at that time, is now coming of age in more ways than one. He has seen a tremendous amount of support, especially in the province that his family calls home, that is Sindh. Remember, the family estate in Larkana is where he was seen earlier this morning. He cast his vote and then also spent time at the Bhutto mausoleum to pay his respects to his mother, who is buried there alongside his grandfather, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and his two uncles, Shahnawaz and Murtaza Bhutto.